Hi guys, and welcome back to Switch Up. Continuing with our Buy and Avoid series, which we've done for sale games and others, we're now going to look at the recent releases which we've not reviewed.
Yep, so we have 10 games here that, as Mark said, we haven't reviewed on the channel, but we are going to advise you whether you should be buying these or avoiding them. I'm going to be honest, of the 10 games we're going to show, I've only played a couple of them. Mark's played the rest. Reason being, I've been playing Shakedown Hawaii ever since it released, so priorities, I suppose.
Goodness. It's another kart racer with Meow Motors. We've just had Sonic Land on the Switch, so it's a difficult time. What does this do to potentially separate itself from that? Well, firstly, the price. It's much lower in price than that game. Secondly, the visuals. They are just, I would say, as good maybe as the Sonic game that's just released, and performance is top notch. There is 2-player split screen mode here in local, but unfortunately it does not have any online co-op.
So what you're saying then is that unless you're absolutely certain it must have online, this is a definite buy. Okay, one of my only contributions to this list then is Gunlord X, and this is the only game that's managed to get me away from Shakedown Hawaii. So this is a run and gun, very much in the vein of a game like Super Turrican or Turrican 2 as it was on the Amiga. It's very, very stylish, very action-packed, fairly difficult, although not overly difficult. Maybe not as polished as it could be, but then it's only about £9 or $10. I would say this is an absolute stonewall buy if you enjoy run and gun games.
There you go, stonewall buy. Pretty cheap as well. Cheap and cheerful, cheap as chips. The first game that I'd recommend you avoid is a game called Thief Simulator. Now, when I saw this, I was very excited. The visuals looked lovely, the performance looked good, and then I played the actual game. Now, the premise behind it, getting different missions and acquiring certain loot from houses, including casing out the joints and using lockpicks, etc., is great. I'd be all for that, but unfortunately it's very clunky, slow, and the whole thing just feels a little bit awkward and isn't very fun.
Yeah, I watched you play some of this one when you were capturing footage, and if I could sum it up in one word, I think that word would be janky. Do you think that would be fair?
It is very, very janky. The next game I would say is a recommendation on sale, and it's a game called Blazing Beaks. Now, if you're a fan of The Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon, but especially Mana Spark, it's a more simplified take on the previous games I've mentioned. You travel room to room, clearing the area, sometimes you get power-ups, and then you fight an end boss for each stage and move on. When you die, you lose everything. You can get a seed and then try that stage again, but overall, that's the long and the short of the experience. There is also a 1 to 4 player competitive match mode if you have that many friends to play with. It's a nice little game, it's just not overly complex. But if you find it on sale, then definitely think about picking this one up.
Okay, the next game then is a game called Black Paradox. Now, I played a little bit of this one. We played this cooperatively the other day. I did enjoy it. I'm a huge shoot 'em up fan. This is a roguelite shoot 'em up in terms of when you die, you keep your currency and you can then use that to upgrade your ship for your next run. This game was fun. I'll be honest, I like my shooters without roguelite elements, and I personally prefer some of the hamster Neo Geo shooters such as Blazing Star, but I know that Mark really enjoyed this one and he's played a lot more of it than me.
Yeah, roguelite is going to put off quite a few people, but like Glenn said, you can roll over the currency and buy random upgrades for your ship. What I liked about it was that it was so quick. You could jump in, play for 5 to 10 minutes and experience a very fun little game. At the end of each stage there are boss fights and you work your way through. If like Glenn you're not a fan of the roguelite elements, then maybe look for it on sale. You will definitely recognise the name of the next game, and it's Coral. Sorry. It's an underwater adventure game. It's basically a walking simulator underwater. I'd say perhaps avoid this one, unless you're really taken by the visuals. There isn't a great deal to hold your attention here. As I mentioned last week, I watched my daughter play it, and if she wasn't challenged at 5, I think this is going to be one for just people wanting to relax.
Wouldn't a walking simulator underwater be a swimming simulator? There we go. Okay, avoid. Nice one. What's next? Okay, next game then is called 39 Days to Mars, and we mentioned this in our upcoming games list from last week. Now this is a cooperative game in which you have to solve certain puzzles in order to be able to move on through the game. What I mean by that is that you need to work out how to start the engine of the hot air balloon to then move on to the next part of the game, and then your character will want to have a cup of tea, so you have to stop and have to work together to do that, using motion controls to pick certain objects up to then get them motivated to do the next task. It was fun and it was certainly interesting, and if you're looking for a cooperative game, I suppose you could do worse, but having said all that, I personally would say avoid. It didn't hold my attention for very long, and a lot of the tasks started to feel a little bit laborious, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It was quite fun, but after the 4th time of being asked to make a cup of tea together, it lost a little bit of its charm.
The next game is called American Fugitive. Now, we've recently reviewed this, so you kind of know my feelings on it, but I'm going to say them anyway. Now, this developer thankfully have released a patch for it. This is a top-down GTA style game set in a small country town, where you take on the role of Will as he tries to find out exactly who killed his father. The story is overly cliche, but the AI isn't exactly the brightest, but I found the game to be a very fun stopgap before we potentially get a GTA game on Switch. I enjoyed it a lot and would definitely say it's worth buying. It's currently also on sale.
Which takes us on to the final game on our list, and my least favourite genre, and Glenn's favourite, so he's going to love this. And it's a game called Darkwood. Now, in my stupidity, I thought to myself, well, a few subscribers have mentioned how good this game is, I'll fire this up. Doesn't matter that it's dark. Yeah, I've got my headphones on and I'm on my own, but it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. Now, Glenn, you love a horror game, don't you? I think you're going to love this one. It's got a really interesting, almost like a survival game feel about it. You're left alone straight away, and it even says at the beginning, this game won't hold your hand, which I really liked. And you're just put into the world. You can interact with almost everything. So you can go through cupboards, you can rifle through bodies, and yeah, the art style is actually lovely. This, I think, for fans of horror like yourself, is going to be a definite buy.
Yeah, I've got this one downloaded, and it's definitely one I'm looking forward to jumping into. I think we said when we highlighted this on the upcoming games list, whenever it was, that it's always interesting to see how a game that isn't 3D handles horror, and by the sounds of it, it actually is quite effective in its scares. Would that be fair to say?
It's the use of sound and light. Like, there's actually quite a clever lighting engine here. Like, you slowly push open a door, which is like physics based, and the light will spill into the room, and then just random sounds coming out of nowhere, like a creak of a chair. It's horrible, but you're probably going to enjoy that, aren't you?
You live to be scared, don't you? That's what it's all about. Or you don't know, but but also I think it prides itself on not having jump scares, which is always a win in my book.
Okay, so that is the end of our buy and avoid list for this week. We've got some really nice recommendations, and they're not going to break the bank either. Hopefully this type of video will also save some people some money. Thanks so much to everyone that watches the channel. What are we on now, like 33,000? Something like 33,000 subs, which is incredible. Someone actually popped up the other day and were like, you're a third of the way to 100,000 subscribers. Can you imagine the party we're going to have? For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switcher. Cheers, guys.
Good stuff. Right, I'm going to go and play Shakedown Hawaii, so see you later. Happy gaming.
Who wants to see Glenn do a review? See ya!